So we're all here to walk through the Acjc Grants Portal financial reporting process. And basically what that means, all of you are processing your information. Either you received an allotment or an advance, and you're reporting back to us your expenditures off those allotments or advances, or you're asking for a reimbursement of funds that were expended during that period, either monthly or possibly quarterly, depending on your program's requirements. I do want to set some items to consider before we get into the tutorial. The first one being that you want to make sure to assign your financial contacts. No one can access those finance reports if no one at your agency is assigned to the financial contact or to the financial alternate contact. We covered this in our prior meeting, how to assign those contacts. So if you do need a tutorial on that, we do have a tutorial on our manuals page. Up at the top bar, you can see down here, Acjc Grants, Manuals, Contact. This is that top banner bar on the Acjc Grants portal. If you click Manuals, there will be manuals available there to walk you through that process. Okay, if you have any questions about that, please do reach out to your coordinators or your manager. You can also reach out to me for any technical issues. The second item is to make sure that your grant requirements are completed. Okay, if your grant requirements are not completed by the time you submit a finance report, we will not process that report until those grant requirements are finalized. Again, any questions about that, you'll want to reach out to the program-specific coordinators as well as your manager for follow-up. Be sure to get those grant requirements in. And then finally, note that in the new system, the Acjc Grants Portal, there is a difference between a reimbursement report that you will submit versus an allotment or an advance report. The reimbursement report will trigger our PSR process to pay those monies out. The allotment or advance report, since you've already received those funds from Acjc, will simply be a reporting out of those expenditures that apply for that period of time. So please do note, we'll see it in the video, just note that difference, that there will be reimbursement reports in your list. There will also be allotment and advance reports in your list if you are required to submit those. If you're not required to submit anything on allotment or advance, you haven't received any allotments or advances, then it's strictly a reimbursement process. Those are the only reports that you're going to see. Okay? And again, I like doing this every time, just so everybody knows where to go to. We have that banner down below. The Acjc Grants takes you to that landing page that I'll show you here in just a second. Again, the manuals will take you to the tutorials as well as the manuals that have been created to this point. We do not have the financial report manual available at this time. We're going to take a lot of your feedback here today to just refine that further, finalize it, and then push that out in the next couple days. If you have any questions for staff, please click on that contact section. That will take you to our contact list where you can reach out to individual members of Acjc for the specific questions that you might have. And then on the right side, if you click on Hello Matthew Bileski there, or whatever your name is for your user account, that's where you can go access account information. You can change certain user information that you entered in at registration. You can also change your email. You can elect to change your password there. A plethora of items that I'm sure many of you are used to with specific accounts from other applications that you've used. So please click there to access your account information. Click on Main Page to access your specific navigation page. We'll see that here shortly when I go into the system here. And then finally, always be sure to log off. If you're leaving your station for a period of time, obviously if you're leaving for 2 minutes, not as big of an issue. I would just recommend Control-Alt-Delete, lock down. But if you're leaving for an extended period of time, always be sure to log out of the system. For security purposes, we do appreciate it. We don't want anybody getting in that should not be in there. So be sure to log off. Okay, with that said, I'm going to stop presenting here. And I will start presenting really quickly here on our homepage. So everyone should see the ACJC Grants portal homepage. If you are a finance contact that has been identified by your primary contact to submit finance reports, but you have not yet registered, please be sure to click up top, register yourself in the system, let that primary contact know, and they can assign you as a financial contact or a financial alternate contact. Okay? You cannot be assigned to either one of those roles unless you are registered in the system and they can find your email. So please do that before you seek out the opportunity to be assigned as a contact. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to click on the manuals section, and I'll show you really quickly up top. We have all of our user manuals. Many of them are for your requirements that we talked about last time. And then if I scroll down here, we have the award requirements videos that we went through last time. And then now we have grantee reporting. We'll see other reporting here like activity reporting, the grant adjustment requests reporting, things like that will follow down the line. But today we are focused strictly on financial reporting. So here we're going to start that 27-minute video. We'll get about, like I said, halfway through. We'll stop it, review any questions, and then go through and answer those questions as they come in. So now I will go ahead and stop presenting here. Give me 1 second here. I'm trying to be cute here with the recording. And I will recommend the video is just slightly more silent than loud. So if you wouldn't mind while we're playing this video, do please crank up your audio if you can't hear it. That will help. I've turned my audio up to 100%. So hopefully it blasts out to all of you as loudly as possible. Let me go ahead and start playing that video. If we have any issues, Dorinda, please reach out to me and let me know.
Will do.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Matt Boleskin with the Arizona Criminal Justice Commission, and I'm here to walk you through the financial reporting process in the Acjc Grants portal. As you can see, I'm here on the splash page. I'm going to go ahead and click on my main page up at the top. I am already logged in, as it says hello IT admin at the top, so be sure that you are logged in to access the screen. Also keep in mind that for financial reporting, you are required to be a financial contact or financial alternate contact. So please do be in contact with your primary individual that's assigned to the grant, and they can assign you a financial.
Matt, we just lost audio.
Down here,
Are we back up, Dorinda?
and we'll be able to access the financial reporting page.
Okay, my apologies on that. I'll rewind it
I'm just going to go ahead
back a
and
couple seconds here.
test, and they can assign you a finance role. Once you have set up your account in the system, they will find you and they can assign you as a financial contact. And at that point, you'll be able to click on this financial reporting button down here. And we'll be able to access the financial reporting page. At this point, I'm just going to go ahead and pick a test version. I would pick the program, the agency, and then finally the grant number. If you do not know your grant number, please do contact the primary, or you can reach out to the coordinator or the manager here at Acjc to provide that information. I'm going to go ahead and click select. And now I have a summary view of everything financial reports. I've already processed one reimbursement report from back in July for a total of $1,700 being reported. as expended, and $1,275 of that was paid out to our agency. Now, keeping in mind that $425 of that $1,700 was dedicated to match, and so it was automatically deducted from the paid amount, or for the paid amount, from that total $1,700. And that reported match is reflected at the top. So here we see a total reported of $1,700 in reimbursements, leaving us a remaining $37,632. I've used 425 of the match and have 9,533 remaining. If match applies to your grant, you will see this match snapshot. If not, or if it's incorporated in your financial ledger down below, then you will not see this up top. If you do not have any allotments or advances that apply to your grant, you will not see that line item here in the expenditure snapshot. You also will not see that allotments and advances down below. So at this time, we'll go through each of these components. The financial reports due table will show you which reports are most recently due and goes through your entire list of reports that are due for the life of the grant period. We'll explain this here just shortly. Let me go over to the expenditure snapshot. Again, this shows the allotments and advances, the snapshot of reported, the amount that's remaining, and then the total amount applied for the entire grant period. Same thing for reimbursements. There's the amount that has been reported to date, the remaining balance of reimbursement amount, and then also finally the total allowable reimbursement amount for the grant period. And then finally, you have the total budget amount for each of those three categories. As I mentioned earlier, the reported match snapshot is available to show you where you are at currently in drawing down your match funds. You'll see a very similar overview across all of the categories here down below in the financial ledger. This tab, the financial ledger tab, basically explains everything being drawn down from your available funds. You'll see a total budget line for each of the categories. If you hover over these specific categories here, you will see a pop-up that explains in more detail what this means. So where NONC stands for non-capital equipment, if you hover over that, you'll see that full name there pop up. So if you ever question what those categories are, you can hover over those to find out more detail. Here's our total budget dedicated to overtime, overtime ERE, non-capital equipment, and then the total overall. The second line, the reported expenditures line, will show you how much has been expended to date. This will include allotments and advances that are reported back to Acjc on what's been expended of those allotments and advances, as well as any reimbursement reports that have come in. You will see that the total amount paid out is also provided on the far right. Once it has reached approval by the program manager, it will then be processed for PSR, and at that point you will see that paid amount added in. And then finally, budget remaining. This is the amount that you have remaining in each of these categories. As you can see, I have an advance that was processed for $500, so I can draw down from that $500 at any time. In order to draw down from an allotment or advance, my coordinator or manager would have to create an advance report. Please be sure to respond with what you've drawn down from advances and allotments in an advance report, and understand that a reimbursement report is an expenditure report that you are looking for monies to be processed back to your agency. The advance obviously has already processed that monies to your agency. So the reimbursement report is requesting monies to be paid out to the agency. And that coincides with the reimbursement section. As you can see, I've already processed a reimbursement report for the $1,700. It has been approved, and the payout has gone out to the agency. I now have a total available amount of funds at $37,632. This available total does include any match. Keep in mind that that's important when considering the match up top. Depending on which type of match that you're working with, it will either display down here, or again, it will display in the snapshot. There is one final box in the ledger for any refunds or revertments that may be processed back to the funds available in this grant. Keep in mind that only Acjc finance team can process a refund or revertment as well as an adjustment. So this will only populate through Acjc and the finance department. So on the next tab, we have report information. This provides you a snapshot of what's been paid out to your agency, as well as what's been refunded and reverted back. So in the allotments and advances, we can see that there was a July advance report that sent $500 to our agency. We also have a reimbursement report that was processed, that July report that we saw on the ledger. That was processed and paid for the $1,275. And then finally, with any refunds or revertments, you will see those populated down below based on Acjc's finance team processing any that would be applicable to the grant period. You will see these lists grow as more allotments and advances are processed, as well as any reimbursement reports are processed on your behalf. We now have an equipment tab, which shows you the list of all equipment that was purchased. So when you report this equipment into your various finance reports, that information will be subsequently populated here. So this is a summary of all equipment purchased under this grant period. Any interest that was earned or spent will be reported here, and as you can see, it balances out. We have $100 that was earned in July, and then $50 of that was spent, leaving a balance of $50 remaining. And then finally, if program income applies and you submitted a program income worksheet, you will see the program income tab. With each report that is processed, you're able to provide both the total amount of program income that was received, which would go beyond just Acjc's portion, but just your entire program, the income taken in. The next you will report on, as you will see in the finance report, is the grant portion that was received. So of that 2,000 percentage that applies, how much of that was received under the grant? And then finally, how much of that grant portion did you spend during that month? And as you can see here, $60 was received, and then $50 was spent. That leaves a balance of $10 for future spending. So as you can see, this gives you an entire summary of all the information. If we go back to the financial ledger, you can always click on the reimbursement report to gain access and view that reimbursement report or the allotment or advance report. And then once you have submitted and it has been approved, it will be removed from this financial reports due section. So in order to access a prior report, you would need to then click on it down below in your financial ledger. So let's go ahead and submit.
I'm going to go ahead and pause right there. If you need to turn down your audio, I'm sorry, I just yelled into my microphone here. But let's open it up, Dorinda, for any questions that might have come in up to this point.
There haven't been any yet. Want to give it a minute or so to see if there's anything that comes in?
Sure. Also, for anyone that's on the phone, feel free to open up your phone line and ask a question. We'll try to manage through that as well.
This is Jessie with Graham County, and I don't necessarily have a question, but I submitted my first report this morning for July, so hopefully I did it correctly. I think after viewing this, though, I think everything should be okay.
Very good. Thank you, Jesse. And like any new application, obviously there's learning lessons to be had on both sides. So we're excited to see what comes in. Any improvements that need to be made, you'll be guaranteed that I'm going to be on it right away. But we're confident that this process will stand up and serve all of you over the next grant period. So thank you for your comment. Any other questions?
None have come through on the chat, Matt, so I think you can probably start again.
Okay. I will go ahead and begin the second portion here. I think what we can do, Dorinda, if you see any questions come in, we can always stop somewhere along the line. I think we're ahead of the game here, so that's fine if we need to stop at some point in between.
Okay.
Our August 2021 reimbursement report. I'm going to go ahead and click on edit. As you can see, before I continue, you do not have the ability to edit other financial reports that are due in the future. It will open up 1 month prior to the due date. So do keep that in mind. Cannot process those earlier than that time frame. Make sure to come in and as of, in this case, August 25th, I'd be able to go in and edit. I did open this up just for the sake of this tutorial. So we'll go ahead and edit that reimbursement report. And here we are, we're processing the reimbursement report. This first general tab gives me all the information I need to know to make sure that I am processing the correct reimbursement report. I'm going to go ahead and click on financial. And I now have the opportunity to provide across the 3 categories in which we have funding available to provide an overtime amount. I'll put in another 1,000. Overtime ERE, let's say that came in at 300. And then non-capital equipment. I did spend $2,000 in non-capital equipment. And so now you can see that my total reported comes out to $3,300. 825 of that is match amount. And then so the total paid out to the agency will be $2,475 once approved by the coordinator, finance, and then the manager. I do have an equipment section that I am able to draw down on, either non-capital or capital equipment. So I can add that information here. Please do keep in mind, let me go back to the budget categories here. If you are slide eligible, you will be able to go over the amount that's allocated. For instance, if I were to go to 5,000 here, I would be able to go over that 4,800 if I were to slide some of the monies from overtime. However, I can't go over by too much, or I will receive this warning. Reported total exceeds available amount in specified categories, including that 10% slide. So I'm going to go back to my 300. And now I can move forward. If this does not balance out, you will not be able to submit this report. So do be sure to attend to any errors that might exist here in the budget categories. Now I'm going to go ahead and click here to edit my equipment. I'm going to go ahead and enter in, say, a live scan. Provide a part number. That was non-capital. Quantity of 1. Estimated life in years. This would be how you would calculate out for any federally funded program what your estimated life expectancy of that equipment would be. So in this case, I'm just going to say 5 years. The cost to Acjc, obviously we're asking for $2,000. Make sure if you have multiple items to add to this equipment detail, that cost totals to exactly what you're showing up above in non-capital equipment. If there is an exception to that, please do reach out to your coordinator or your manager to inquire how best to respond to this equipment detail section. The equipment cost would be either the subtotal or the total barring shipping cost or anything like that that would fall under your additional cost. So here we're going to put in $1,800 and then $200 for shipping cost. Now I've gone ahead and correctly entered in that $2,000 that we have in non-capital equipment up above. If I am spending less than $2,000 for that live scan, I can add and explain what that next item would be here. Otherwise, I can delete that out and just go with the one live scan here at $2,000. You can also provide any additional budget detail down below. Beyond just the equipment detail, to explain your overtime ERE, non-capital equipment, anything that you are expending here and reporting out, you have the ability to provide comment here down below. And the Acjc team will be able to look at that and review. Next item is interest and income. You will see interest earned. I'm going to go ahead and put in $20. Interest spent, we spent the full 20. If you do not have any program income applied for this grant, so for instance, you did not submit a program income worksheet, you will not even see the program income section. But if it does apply to you, you can go ahead and enter in that information, total program income, as we discussed earlier. Portion of that program income that is grant related, Acjc grant related. Let's do 400 instead. And then grant portion that was spent. As you recall, I think we had an extra $10, so I'm going to say $410 here to balance that out. This next item is important. If you are reporting on your financial tab, anything in total reported greater than 0, you do have to provide an attachment in order for the submit button to show and allow you to submit. If you have any question of how to get the submit button to activate, you can click on how do I activate the submit button, and up will pop up your warning. Assure that all requested reimbursement totals do not exceed the available totals, with the exception of the 10% slide. Any applicable match totals do not exceed available match amounts. A package document must be attached if the total reported in the budget is greater than 0, and that's what I just talked about. And then also the report must be approved by an official signature to certify the information submitted to the Acjc. So again, to get this submit button to activate, I need to provide an attachment since I'm reporting greater than 0. I will select that from my file explorer that pops up after clicking the button. Sample document 2. And as you can see, all I have to do is just add that with the blue button. And now I have document 2 down below. I can click on that to review and make sure it's the correct document. Oops, I uploaded the wrong document. I can go ahead and delete that out and then add the right document in. Notice that you cannot add any more documents. Only one package document. Please select one attachment for your finance report. Assure that it is a PDF document for optimal viewing at Acjc, that it's 100 megabytes or less. I would encourage all grantees to reduce it if it is really close to the 100 megabyte size limitation, to try to reduce it further just to assure that it will upload properly. The attached file name must be unique from other files uploaded, just for our sake of ease on our part at Acjc. To differentiate these documents from others that have been uploaded, please do provide a unique name for the files that you're uploading across the months. So again, it is a packaged document, and you'll want to make sure to provide all documentation required into that one PDF package. So at this point, all I have to do is sign my name, or whoever is certifying it at your agency. And note that all the information is accurate and complete, proper documentation has been uploaded, and each purchase and expenditure report has been previously approved by the Commission through formal documentation on this grant. At this time, I can save up top. I can save throughout, and I would encourage grantees to save as often as possible, especially if you intend to return back to this report at a later time. Click the Save button, you'll have that pop-up show. Once that pop-up goes away, you know that you've saved properly. If you no longer want to work in this and want to come back to it later, you can always click back to list and then come back in and continue to edit. Remember, you also have a financial alternate spot for another finance contact to review the same document. So the finance contact can set this up, the financial alternate can review it, or vice versa. Be sure to leverage those two finance finance contacts in order to accommodate your processes at your agency or your organization. So in this case, we've reviewed. I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. It's telling me that it's processing, and now as you can see, it's in reviewing status. So I know that it's being reviewed by the Acjc team and approved at some point. Please do keep in mind there are multiple finance report statuses for these reports. If the team needs to reopen the finance report, they will contact you to go back in and resubmit. There may be additional documentation that's required. There might also be some inconsistent numbers that were provided or detail that needs to be revised, whatever the case might be. They will reopen that document for you. If it is just a documentation issue, for instance, page 10 of the attachment package needs to be reattached or amended, then there is also a follow-up status that will allow you to upload a single page or multiple pages required by the coordinator or the finance team to provide that additional documentation to amend the package provided. Of course, if there are enough issues with the documentation, they may just reopen it and have you upload a new package altogether. Again, the coordinators and the managers will make that determination, and you can work directly with them to revise the finance report appropriately, resubmit, and then it will go back into reviewing status. Once it has been approved, it's off to the PSR for processing, for payment, and then it will drop off this finance report's due list up here at the top. As you can see down below, I do have that August reimbursement report also listed here so that you can monitor the expenditures and you can see what's available beyond that as you get into your September report. And as you can see, all the numbers above have been revised as well. It will continue to say pending here as long as it is going through the approval process at Acjc. Once it has been approved and ready for payment, you will see that proper payment listed in the paid column. We'll take a look at the other tabs just to make sure everything else lined up. The reimbursement report is not yet put in the reimbursed reports processed because it has not officially been processed for payment yet. Once it has been processed for payment, you will see it in this list right here. You can see the live scan machine was processed in equipment. Additional interest that was reported is now listed here. We still have a balance of $50. So you can always monitor to see if you need to pay down any more interest that was earned. And then also our balance for program income went down to 0 because we did spend that extra $10 in August. So I know this was a long tutorial. I hope this really helps in walking you through the financial reporting process. We will have a manual available as well that you can reference on the manual section up top. So do please be sure to click on that manual section to access this tutorial, as well as any additional user manual items that will become available. If you do need to reach out to us, again, we are live user manuals at the agency that can walk you through these processes if absolutely necessary, if you're getting hung up anywhere or you need additional information. We are always around to help between the hours of typically 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So do please click on this contact tab and you can reach out to us directly to ask any information of your coordinators or the manager. On the IT technical side, any technical issues that you experience, please do reach out directly to me, Matt Bolesky, and I am more than happy to help and entertain new ways of displaying certain information. So I hope that this is a valuable system, a valuable process for processing your finance reports. And please do be in touch with any questions or concerns. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that's the remainder of the video. Dorinda, did we receive any questions?
We received several. 2 of them are related to program income, and Tony provided the answers. But I didn't know if anybody on the phone might have any questions related to program income as well. If they do, if they could unmute them, ask their questions so we can see if it's one of the ones that was already asked. Not seeing anybody unmuting. Okay, so the next section was asked before we got to the certification section about the authorizing signature. So you don't have to submit a separate report anymore with a separate page anymore with your documentation to certify that. The certification's embedded in the system now where you sign before with an electronic signature before submitting. Then the next question is from Robin. To verify reimbursement requests, the attachment would only include the payroll registers and timesheets pertaining to the on-call wages, correct? So we're going to be sending out a list of documents that are needed for reimbursement requests or for documentation for the other advance and allotment reporting as well. So you're aware of exactly what documents you need to provide for that. If you have additional questions after you get that, please contact your coordinator so that they can work with the finance department to give you specifics on what is needed for your specific grant. There's a question, is there a way to print off a report that is not yet submitted?
That's probably more on the technical side. To my knowledge, yes. I'd have to just explore really quickly exactly where you'd go in to do that. I think you can do that on the grant record side. So the financial contacts may be able to go in on that grant record side to view that. But as you're asking that question, I think it begs the possibility of just opening it up in the financial reports due section. If you click on the report name, it also will direct you to that detail only, the view only feature with the printout as well. So I think we'll entertain that and include that at a later time.
So Antonio, we will give you instructions on where to go print, and there might be more than one place. The next question, in regards to an overtime grant, do we need to take the employee hours on our end of this, or is this something that is done by track the employee hours on our end, or is this something that is done by Acjc? This is going to be a question for the coordinator, but my understanding is you're going to need to track your hours on timesheets that you would attach, and then we may have a specific number of hours we are covering, but the actual tracking of them as far as usage would be yours, is my understanding. And if that's not the case, then one of the other coordinators can probably provide some additional information.
That's correct. Similar to the ACSF grant, if you have that, we have for overtime hours, you're supposed to track what's reported to that grant. So this will be the same for the drug grant.
Okay.
Yep, it's the same if your grants fall under system improvement. You also probably have documentation that we both kind of agreed to how many hours will be paid through the grant. But as far as tracking, it's still up to the agency.
Okay, and the next question is, are we having to provide documentation for the July report? And the answer to that is yes. You will need to provide documentation for the July report. We have a raised hand if you from the Attorney General's office. If you want to ask your additional question, go ahead. I'm not sure, they're not answering, so hopefully they don't have any other additional questions. If the next question here is, if our grant is currently in GMS, will it move over to this new system automatically, or will we be notified when it moves over? So for any grant that was starting effective July 1st as a new grant year and a new grant cycle, even if you had a cycle prior to this, if you completed an application process, then you are starting in the new system. The others, it is my understanding we are going to be moving them into the new system. Matt, do you know what the status is on the grants that are being moved into the new system?
Good question, Dorinda. We don't necessarily have an exact timeline when we're going to migrate those over, but it's definitely something that's on our radar. And you will be hearing from your program manager as well as your coordinators with sufficient time to plan ahead. So if there's any question on, we're going to cut it off right away and then just force you, no, we're not going to do that. We'll give you a heads up, and you can go into the new system beyond that point and submit that information.
So then there's a follow-up question from the AG's office about what documentation is going to be required, and it won't be required until August. It's not required until August 25th because that's the date that the report is due. You might want to talk with your specific grant coordinator so that they can give you more specifics about what you're going to need to provide for your specific grant.
Dorinda, does that catch us up to all of the questions in the chat?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. This is a good time for anybody on the phone that has additional questions. So if you'd like to open up your phone line and ask that question. Again, I believe it's *6 to unmute yourselves. Sounds like we're fully caught up on questions at this point. Again, this is the last opportunity during this meeting. So if you do have questions, please do pose those in the next couple minutes. Otherwise, we'll all be jumping off. And that doesn't stop or prevent your ability to ask us questions. We're always available. So do reach out to us if you do have questions. I do want to mention to everybody that this tutorial specifically, I know there might have been some audio issues. If any of you were concerned you couldn't hear something properly or it just was a little bit fuzzy or grainy, please go to that manual section and you can review this again. 27 minutes worth of high-level content. You will want to review that more than once, I guarantee. So if you do have any questions about the financial reporting process, do refer to that tutorial. And then we're also available if you have specific questions beyond that.
There will also be a guide posted. We will take into account any of the questions that were asked today when looking at that guide to see if there's any changes we need to make to it. So expect it to be available sometime early next week.
Dorinda, I do see a note. Please let them know, let Rosanna know how to print a financial report before it's signed submitted. I'm assuming that's probably what we were talking about earlier, accessing it to review it prior to submission. But again, just to clarify, Dorinda, I'm sure you're probably going to clarify on this too. You don't need to sign it and submit it. But go ahead, Dorinda.
I think that it's an internal process that some of the grantees have where they have to show it to somebody else aside from the financial points of contact and the primary individual on the grant for approval before submission. So they just need to be able to print it so they can take it to them and review it with them prior to submitting.
We will open that up. My first inclination is let's go ahead and allow for a click on that report name up in the financial reports due table, and that would give you the full detail information and a printout option for the PDF.
So we will work on that and get back to everybody on the locations where you can go in and print out financial reports prior to approval. I see no other questions, Matt.
Okay, so we'll wind it down at 1:53. Just give a couple more minutes in case anybody's coming in with additional questions. I do want to thank all the ACJC team, all of you in the finance departments, all of you at the various programs as our grantees. Thank you for being part of this discussion, and we do value your involvement so that we can make this as easy a process and as great an ACJC grants portal as we possibly can. Thank you very much. All right, with that, I will adjourn the group. And again, if you have questions, we'll hang on for another minute or so. Thank you.